Okay, Tony Sylvester. And
Is this our personal 3-minute, or is
this
this?
is your personal 3
Oh,
minutes.
okay.
I recognize
Mark,
that the two of
personal,
you
or are you
are
just gonna-
members of the Game Management
Oh, okay.
Commission and will be coming back up as representative of the commission.
Okay, aloha council, and thank you for having us here. One thing I really want to point out today, just this is my own personal, this is not part of the commission or anything, is that the Hawaii Revised Statutes 263-10 and our county ordinance is law. And that is the crux of a lot of this, I think, confusion and issue that's been going on between whether the state can fly and shoot from helicopters or not. And then apparently, HRS 263-10, I mean, that's been in since 1923. And, you know, I don't know how the state got around that initially to fly helicopters and shoot. Now, we understand the federal mandate and how that was brought into stipulation, and I'll explain that later. But what I'm hoping is that you realize that they can't fly anywhere else on this island because of our ordinance, and they're not supposed to be flying because of this state law. And this state law is that any aeronaut or passenger who, while in flight in, across, or above the state, intentionally kills or attempts to kill any birds or animals shall be guilty of a misdemeanor and punishable by a fine of not more than $1,000, and so forth and so forth. So, you know, when they try to say, you're going to often hear, like I just got a message yesterday from someone that, and I want to say that don't let the feds or the state environmental groups fool you guys. The state does not have any authority to aerial eradicate everywhere. Only palila critical habitat because of that federal mandate. An example is we put a House bill in through our Hawaii Hunting Association for cooperative resource management. And DLNR tried to amend it to allow a change to 263-10 to allow them to aerial eradicate anytime, anywhere. This is the bill that we wanted cooperative resource management, have a stake at the table with the agencies involved in our public lands. And it was deferred. And the last day, they went in and stuck in an amendment to our bill, allowing them to aerial eradicate anytime, anywhere, and to amend this. And I mean, if it was legal, why are they going to do that, right? So it goes to show you that they're trying to cover their okoles with this right now. So as we give our presentation, please keep that in mind, and this is what we're facing. Thank you.
Okay, and Mark, if you could state your name and where you're from. And
name is Mark Bartel. I'm from Kona. And, you know, Chairperson, I'll just stave my comments for the testimony around GMAC, if you don't mind. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. And then Kapu Deadman. And again, if you could state your name and where you're from. And can you check to see if your mic's on so we can hear you clearly?
Good morning. I passed around, you guys got the two bills, that's now our law. You have to know that it was passed unanimously, 9 zeros, 8 zeros, and 9 zeros. The one that had the 8, I think it was in California, mainly there was Blas at that time. But that's your past colleagues that's been around for a while in the county council that I understand should have the respect of the new county councils of the work that's been done and the efforts that have been put into passing bills and the commitment the community made. It's not just on piece of paper, but it was a lot of work to make this a reality, and that's what we stand for. And that is a law, and you have to uphold laws, I was told as one Hawaiian. And there's a lot of conflict with DLNR with traditional respect to traditional and customary practice, which is also a state constitutional law that has been used in lawsuits to prove that there is flaws when the state creates certain languages or do certain projects or do certain developments that infringes on these statutes. So I'm just trying to tell you that in this bill, if you look on the advisory, it talks about customary and traditional practice. Now, what's that supposed to be? All the other nationalities practice? I think it's talking about Native Hawaiian practice, if it's traditional, and then adopted by all the migrations of people. But I'm saying that this is the law, and I think that this county has to stand up for what the people wanted. That's their vote, like they voted for you. In fact, more voted for this law than you got for your elections. So it just tells you that that's what the island thinks, that's what the island wants, and that's what you should stand up for is what we want. So this Fish and Game Advisory is protecting the environment, the future, and its resources. The reason why these were brought to attention and why we made them laws is because of the state. Their negligence on looking at subsistence living. You know, as one Hawaiian, there's more other nationalities now hunting than Hawaiians. So everybody's come to adopt that understanding of subsistence and living on one island and making ends meet when it's tough and getting cacao for baby parties, ceremonies, weddings, and all kinds of things. So
If you would please summarize.
I'm just saying that I think you should look at these laws and defend it and understand
Don't have to
how
do
the
it.
commission should be set up as their guidelines for who you're looking for.
Turn it on.
It doesn't talk about botanists and biologists on this commission. It talks about subsistence living and hunters and fishermen and gatherers. So that's the advice they're supposed to give you of how science impacts their way of life. So defend that, council people and corporate council, that this is the law you're supposed to defend, not one that you water down. This is the people's voice, and let that be defended that way. That's my
Thank you very much.
thank you very much.
And I think, do I see some additional
Madam-
testifiers in Hilo?
Madam Chair, we have 6 testifiers in Hilo.
Okay. I think I'll go ahead and call Isaac Williams here and then move to Hilo. Okay. Good morning, Isaac.
Good morning.
If you could introduce yourself first.
I'm Isaac Williams from Kona.
Okay, thank you.
I'm just like, I don't know what they have to say, but I read about it in the newspaper, aerial eradication, and I kind of let down that we voted against aerial eradication, and the DLNR don't got the balls to say that they're actually aerial eradicating. They're saying, oh, we're looking, or checking it out, or whatever they say they're dropping off people. So whether or not they're eradicating goats down Kauai High or on Hualalai or wherever they're flying, whatever they're doing, nobody knows. They say they're not. But I'm kind of let down because we voted against that, and that's wrong. It's inhumane. They kill whatever they can, shooting from how high. Just leave them in the bushes. I can eat that. I can feed my kids. And then I think, I don't know how much they spend per flight, but that money could be used to just make us a little parking area, where we can get off the road. And then I got my pretty pants on, but this is my walking boots. I can put in miles. I'm got no problem going. Can walk, hunt the animals the way they should be, taken down humanely, and then brought out, to the families. That's all I got to say.
Okay, thank you, Isaac.
Thank you.
All right, turning to Hilo, we have 2 testifiers at the table. If the first could introduce themselves.
Good morning. I'm Corey Harden, commenting on Communication 180 about the Game Management Advisory Commission. I'm speaking for myself. I expect the commission will talk about aerial hunting, so I'm commenting on that. Hawaii County is the one and only place on earth where palila live. Their food and homes are being destroyed by grazing animals that eat like Godzilla and multiply like rabbits. What is Hawaii County's responsibility to the palila? I see aerial hunting by the state as a lesser evil than letting native species go extinct. I agree with the Humane Society that aerial hunting should be done only when necessary, as humanely as possible, avoiding impacts to non-target animals, and should be done effectively so you don't get animals that survive and reproduce and then you have to do it again. The aerial hunting in the state or aerial hunting is required by a 1998 federal court order. The hunting must be done twice a year to protect palila habitat. The hunting targets sheep and goats that destroy mamani trees that palila depend on at the only place on earth that palila live, Mauna Kea. In the last 3 decades, there have been 3 court orders to stop the state's illegal take of the endangered palila. The state is considered to be taking palila because it hasn't removed the animals that destroy their food and habitat. A recent study says the palila could be extinct very soon because in the last decade there's a decline in the population that's unprecedented in over 3 decades of monitoring. I do support one concern related to aerial hunting raised by County Corporation Counsel Lincoln Ishida. He said there should be a public involvement program as required by a stipulated agreement from 1998 between the state and environmentalists, and I support public involvement. On the aerial hunting, I hope council will get the facts about why there is a federal court order mandating it. I mean, federal courts don't just do things for fun. And if the commission opposes aerial hunting, please, I hope the council will ask them to propose an alternative with evidence that the alternative is equally effective. Thank you.
Corey, could you summarize, or you?
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Corey.
Good morning, council members. My name is Ronald Fujiyoshi. Speaking on 180. When this bill was before the previous council, I came and spoke twice for it. I was in a meeting with the number 2 person in civil defense, and he made the statement, if all of the food sources are stopped from coming to this island, we only have 7 days of food on this island. And so I'm very concerned that the council help this Game Management Advisory Commission to work, because we need management. We need the food source, and I'm worried about the evening meeting in Hilo and at DLNR, where it seems to be that they're going to get rid of, put in place more laws that are going to get rid of all the game that is necessary for food sources for our people. Now, I'm not a hunter. I'm a macadamia nut part-time owner, and pigs, I see pigs coming up on my farm and the adjacent farm all the time, so I know what the pigs are. But I have been giving away pigs that are caught to my Micronesian friends, and they're waiting for the source, so that what we need is good management. And so I appeal to the council members to help do this. I think all of the other counties are looking at the Big Island to see how well we do this management plan, and the commissioners need your support to be able to do their job and do it well. So I appeal to you to give them all the support and help get rid of the distractions that are hindering them from doing their job. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next testifier, there in Hilo.
this is a new commission, and it's very much needed. I agree with Ron that the food supply needs to be protected, and eradicating animals from the air doesn't allow that, because animals that die that way, the blood stays in their body, and it's very, very unhealthy to eat meat like that. You need to let the game management work out a way that the hunters can go and save this meat for the people. We have a lot of people that are really not getting enough food, and Hawaiians are big meat eaters. So allowing that supply of meat to be protected, save them, put them in freezers, I don't know, there's ways to work it out. But having somebody come and kill animals, that is so Western. I mean, and it's sad to watch animals die that way. The other thing is, everybody's concerned about the palila bird, and they think that these animals are doing that. Take a good look at old pictures of that area. It was full of sheep, loaded sheep with lots of mamani trees. The trees were killed by a mold, not by the sheep eating, okay? And they may be chewing on it, but maybe if you supply water to them, they won't be eating bark, okay? And they're not eating enough bark to kill the mamani. Look into the mold that's going on. All this mold coming here, this is new to Hawaii. A lot of things are coming in here that don't belong. Also, my son's been listening on air, and apparently they're spraying something. The United States government sprays some kind of aluminum spray to try to control the weather, and maybe that's killing the trees. I don't think it has anything to do with the animals. And you're allowing somebody out of state to take care of our kuleana that they know nothing about. Look what's happening in the United States. There's more people homeless and more people starving than any place. Okay? So please support the game management in doing their job and following the guidelines that were set up when they were voted in. This is the first time. We're the only island that has one, and I think it's one of the best things that's happened to support the island in maintaining its food supply. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else there in Hilo?
Our next testifier is Dwight Vicente, speaking on Communication 180, to be followed by Mark McNett on Communication 180.
Good morning.
Thank
My
you
name
very
is
much.
Dwight Vicente. Communication 180. Now the confusion goes back to the history. If you was to go back and look all the way back to 1887, that's when the United States actually tried to take over, which they actually did. And you'll see the federal courts getting involved. The United States courts have no jurisdiction over either crown or government lands. The state of Hawaii, being a creature of a compact state created in 1959 under the Northwest Ordinance of 1787, they too have no jurisdiction. The lands here remains crown and government lands, and it will be better protected by the kingdom rather than an entity that's actually a creature of collusion. So I'll end with that by reserving the rights of this kingdom under the Queen's protest of January 17, 1893 against U.S. Minister Stevens. Original but limited jurisdiction. And the other one is the Northwest Ordinance of 1787. That too has to go to the U.S. Courts in D.C., but it gives the United States no jurisdiction over crown and government lands, only over its illegal activities, which violates this Constitution and therefore violates the sovereignty of this kingdom. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mark?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Mark McNutt, Hilo resident, neighborhood of Mokaoku, the Banyan Drive. In regard to Communication 180, the Game Management Commission, the game's been mismanaged ever since it was brought here and released. And the history seems to indicate that it was only by bringing in vaqueros or Mexican cowboys that they begin to get a handle on it. But it is impractical to hold the actions of people 100, 150, 200 more years ago by today's standards. But by taking responsibility for cutting all these various livestock loose would be a good first step in restoring Hawaii Nation. And as far as the aerial hunting, if you've ever seen any of these videos, they had a YouTube video on the news this morning. It looked like it may have been done at night because they were just starting to drop these animals and they were just black silhouettes. You couldn't immediately tell what species they were. But years ago, there was some video of, I believe, the Mouflon sheep eradication, and apparently it was shot right from the helicopters of the DLNR rifleists. That these animals were just terrified and hauling top speed for all they're worth. And you can imagine the terror, but you know, you just look at it and say, well, that's life, or at least it was. So there, less than 2 minutes. Thank you.
Madam Chair, our last testifier is John Griffith, speaking on Communication 180.
Thank you.
Hi, good morning, guys. Can you hear me?
Mr. Griffin, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Push right here. How's that better? Okay. Morning, guys. New council members, welcome you guys. You guys missed what happened with the previous meetings that we had on this animal eradication. You know, we got it passed, guys. We need you guys to stick to your guns. You know, don't give in to the pressure that these guys are putting on you and all these fancy rules that they're talking about that has to be repealed and this and that. We got this game commission that hasn't even been sworn in yet. You know, how are we going to proceed if we cannot get things sworn in? You know, you got Tony, them guys waiting to get things done and they can't get anything done. You know, you guys want to talk about subsistence. You know, the Hawaiians did that from day one. Mauka to Makai. It can be done again today, but we have all these obstacles in the way. And we got this commission set up, like Tony them, to try and help us, and we can't get anything achieved. Tonight we got a DLNR meeting. They're going to change the words. They want to make everything injurious. That means to cause a harm. All our animals now are going to cause a harm. They're not going to need permits. They're not going to need any permission to do anything anymore, but kill it. So when you guys are looking over things, you know, think of us, guys. Think of our future, and help us out, guys, and stick to your guns. Thanks, guys. Aloha.
Thank you, Mr. Griffin. Is that it for Hilo?
Madam Chair, that's our
Okay,
last
and-
testifier.
Go ahead. And then we have two more persons here in Kona. Michelle Sylvester. Hi, Michelle. Make sure that the green button is on. Yeah.
Good morning, council members. Thank you for hearing me. I will be talking about Communication 180, the Game Management Advisory Commission. Currently, 60,000 acres were taken from Mauna Kea for the palila critical habitat. We have 1.5 million mamani trees that have grown or recovered, whatever you want to say. And at the last count, there were 1,200 palila birds. The major factor for the palila decline is drought and predation. Sheep do not eat birds. 10% of the predation, there is 10% predation due to the drought per year. That is the biggest factor for the palila decline, and the species, I don't think they'll be able to recover. The reason why I decided to testify at the last moment is because we always have these people that come up and they use science, but they only use the details that they want to accept. So that I don't know, maybe they don't want the Game Management Advisory Commission to go forward. I don't know. But why couldn't they use science to improve the problems or just help with the problems instead of saying, no, science proves this, we have to do this. They're not looking at the whole picture. They just have a scope that they're looking at, and that's it. I personally don't want the palila to go extinct, but the procedures that they've been using for the past 30 years is not working. I don't understand why they're not listening to the people, but I guess because we don't have PhDs. I don't know. There are currently 400 sheep on Mauna Kea right now. The federal mandate said to remove the sheep from Mauna Kea. They've been doing it by aerial eradication. There are other ways to remove the sheep. They have sheep herders still to this day. They do their jobs. Why couldn't we do that? So I'm representing all the people that were not able to come up and testify. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. And is it Shiki Kabusan? Good morning, and if you'll introduce yourself.
Good morning, Council. As I sit back there, I watch the Council, and I see some faces that are just really into this bill. But I'm here just to testify for the younger generation, like my son. Miss Willie, my son has testified before. There's 30 years of eradications on the books, and there's less sheep than ever. Less sheep doesn't mean more palila birds. Before, back in the early 80s, early 90s and stuff like that, you could go to that mountain and you'd see a browse line, and you could see for miles, and choke palila bird, plenty palila bird up there. But like they say, 30 years, if you guys can go back and look, all these eradications are record, and somebody's got this record. Forestry and Wildlife gotta have this on record. So you guys should go back, go look at it. Like they said, we voted you guys in, help us out. The palila population, you guys think about it. It's not science, and it doesn't take a scientist to figure it out. The helicopter comes down over the palila trees, the prop wash from the helicopter, what does that do? It kicks the eggs, it kicks the babies right out of the tree. When the choppers fly, they gotta come down right over those trees to push that sheep out. The sheep not stupid. They gonna hide. So they saying that the sheep not climbing in the trees, the cats are. They get pictures. Tony has pictures of cats going in the trees, eating the babies right as soon as the mom leaves the nest. Tell me what four-legged sheep, what four-legged animal on Mauna Kea Mountain can climb in that tree and eat that bird besides one cat? So, my suggestion is, like they said, we voted you guys in. I see some young faces on the board over here. You guys wasn't here like Mr. Griffin said, freaking Hilo, to see what happened previous. But now is the time for you guys to show us what you guys can do. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And I have another person here, Kay Muranaka. Good morning.
Good morning.
Introduce yourself and make sure the green button's on in front of you.
The light? Yeah. Good morning. My name is Kelly Muranaka. I'm here in support of this game management committee. I'm the fourth generation of this island, born and raised. From my grandfather to my father, we were born and raised to live off the land. What's going on about the subsistence is definitely, I don't believe is right. I look at everybody in this room, everybody's nicely dressed. I believe everybody goes to the supermarket and buys food. Everyone, even back here, even I do it. But like the lady said that the 7 days of living, if something should happen, was printed in the paper, I guess a couple weeks ago, about the food, what would happen to the food supply. And I believe that if it does ever happen, God willing it doesn't ever happen, but what is it going to happen to us if there is no food for us to eat. I personally, I raise cattle. Everybody tells me I don't have to worry, but I mean, majority of us, I think we have children. None of us have gone through a starving mode, I don't believe. But when you see a child starving, in the world, you look at the world today, you see people starving. What means would you go through? Put yourself in that position. What means would you go through to get food for your child or for your family? Everybody tells me I don't have to worry. I raise cattle. I said that's the first target everybody went for. It's the easiest one. Right in town, your kids, somebody's going to come at night and take it. I mean, if you leave the supply on the mountain, people can go and get that supply for their family. But I mean, this is worst case scenario. I mean, hopefully it never happens. But that's why I support this group for keeping the animals here. Also for culture and traditional sakes. I mean, we're losing our heritage of how we were born and raised on this island. The traditions of going up the mountain was passed on through generations from my grandfather to my father to myself, going on to my kids. To see the pictures of my kids enjoying what they're doing in the mountain, with the animal, eating the animal, showing their friends and all that, getting people also involved I think is very important for this island. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that has not had an opportunity? If not, Madam Deputy Clerk, would you please read Communication 180 into the record?
Thank you. Communication 180, discussion and presentation by members of the Game Management Advisory Commission from Council Member Margaret Willey dated March 8, 2013, requesting a discussion on the Commission's priorities.
Okay, may I have a motion to close file on Communication 180?
So moved.
Second. Okay, so moved by Councilmember Karen Eoff and seconded by Councilmember Drew Kanuha. And I would like to ask if there's no objection, I will continue as chair for the presentation. Hearing no.
Can we speak for?
The discussion?
Yeah. Can I say something first? Am I allowed to?
Yes.
You're going to end the discussion. I just want to let the public know that even if you see new faces here on the council and think that we were not aware of what was going on, we were very aware in our communities because like I grew up in a plantation community. We survived only because we were able to hunt and fish. That's how we grew up. Like what I hear, all of the testimony, I do agree, definitely. That is our food source. And we cannot take that away from our people. We're moving backwards. And we need to go back and learn from the past. That's how we survived when we didn't have money. That's the only way we survived was through hunting and fishing. So I totally support you on this. Thanks.
Madam Chair? Just a quick comment on you chairing the meeting. Personally, I don't have a problem with this. I believe that the chair should have an opportunity to speak during the committee meetings. If it is a bill or resolution coming from the chair, I believe they should step down from their chairmanship and let the vice chair do it. If you're going to be guiding a lot of the discussion after this, I'd prefer you to step down. If it's just going to be more of a general discussion and you're not going to be guiding it, I don't have a problem with it. Okay. So I'll let you make that call. Thank you.
Okay. Let me just say, I completely agree with you where there's a resolution or bill that it just should be automatic. If at any time you feel that I'm somehow misguiding or you would appreciate, or anyone on this committee would like me to step down, I'd be happy. So, let me just ask you, would you like me to?
No, I said I didn't ask you to do so. I said if you feel like you're going to be guiding the discussion a lot, then I would ask that. But if it's just going to be more of a normal discussion to be participating, I don't have a problem. But if I do, I'll let you know.
Okay. And Councilmember Gregor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to follow up with Councilmember Valerie Poindexter. I totally agree with what she said. I was born in Philippines and I grew up in Philippines, and I came here when I was 7, and when I grew up there, the only food we had was the food that we grew and the food that we raised. And I totally understand what you have to go through, and I will support you in your efforts. So you have my full support. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'd like to call the members who are here from the commission to please come up. And if you would, I just want to say a few words before you start, and that's, I really want to just read from the section of our bill number 260, the ordinance, and just sort of the framework for your presentation. And the last two sentences of this are that the Commission shall promulgate recommendations that conserve and protect the natural and cultural resources of Hawaii in furtherance of self-sufficiency and long-term subsistence sustainability of aquatic life and wildlife in the county. The Commission shall provide reports and legislative recommendations to the Council as necessary, or at least quarterly. So I want to commend you in being as proactive as you are and coming here and discussing issues that you feel important and sharing it with our council and with the county as a whole. And I appreciate your doing that, and I'd like to hear just sort of, perhaps you could say a little bit in terms of an overview before going into specific issues of concern. I know that you have stated to me and to others your concern about public involvement and across the board and listening to all voices. So if you wouldn't mind just talking a minute or two about the Commission as a whole and how you see the mission.
Yeah, as a whole right now, as informing this commission and everything, I think some of the things that we need to work hard on is to get public involvement more. And that always is difficult, because to arrange things around the islands and have people and have a conversation that we can actually leave with ideas and thoughts is hard. And we feel that once the commission does start officially, that we can have people from the communities come to our meeting and present to them what's important in their community too. And that'll help us all with kind of getting more focused on what the issues are. Because for this commission right now, it's very difficult when you're talking land, water, and cultural and traditional rights. I mean, to have that diverse group of people sit on one commission and have 100% energy and time directed towards each of those objectives is going to be quite a challenge. So we're not going to act like we can do all that kind of stuff or anything, but we're going to try to take like 3 subjects at a time, 3 issues at a time, and when one gets resolved, and then we throw on another one and move on in that fashion. So I think for a lot of us is logistics right now to try to zero in on what actually we have to do. And then of course there's issues that pop up instantaneously, something at the legislature that we have to react on, some Hawaii administrative rule changes that's going to impact Hawaii for generations to come. So things kind of pop in, and then we have to immediately focus our attention on that. So I think for our new commission and getting up and running and started, I think we're doing pretty good. We're weeding out the knots, and hopefully we can be successful in the next year to come. And I'll explain more in my presentation as I go on.
Thank you.
Yeah, Chairman, there are some growing pains in the commission. We've had our meetings, and we're learning how to work as a group and trying to figure out what's critical and what's important and how much we can put on our plate and actually be successful and accomplish something, like you'd imagine with any group. But you've got a great group of people, diverse, committed, energized. I think spending far more time than we probably thought we would with the issues at hand. And as you'd expect with the legislative session just starting and lots of things being tossed around, we're learning to get our feet wet and what we can affect and what we can influence and how to do that and who are the contacts. And so hopefully we're going to make an impact early, but I do believe that as we learn and we get better and we get more competent and we understand who's who in the zoo and how you actually influence and actually cause an effect, we'll get better as time goes on. But thanks for inviting us here for an update. And I think it's timely, right? There's a couple big things right now that this county council is going to have to deal with, and certainly we're going to talk about them today, right? I hope we talk about them today.
Okay, Tony, would you like to sort of pinpoint some of the key issues that are,
sure,
and sort of where you are on those and how?
Well, the number one issue for today is going to be the this arrow eradication ban or an attempt to preempt our county ordinance, and I think generally we understand the stipulation that was created in 1998 that the state made with the plaintiff, which was Sierra Club at that time, which I fully believe that was an illegal agreement because state law at that time didn't allow that. But besides that, it was in a federal court, so the judge ruled on it, so now it becomes part of the original court order. So I'm not here today to fight the issue with the palila habitat and eradication efforts there. What my big concern is that this has the potential to overturn, blanket the county ordinance as well, so that they can aerial eradicate anywhere they want, which is ideally what they want to do. And I believe that's what the citizens of this island did not want. So, we're logical men, and we realize the law is the law, and if the law is set in stone currently at palila habitat, well, so be it. Whether we agree it's right, proper, or wrong, or whatever, I don't think we have the capacity to challenge that yet. Probably will someday, but my biggest concern is the aerial eradication of anywhere on the island, Manuka, Hualalai, all that. They cannot do that. State law, they cannot do that. Our county ordinance, they cannot do that. Our county ordinance is very clever, by the way, because I remember, you probably remember that the Attorney General and the chair at that time says that it's meaningless, that they can do whatever they want because of this stuff. Well, it turns out that they can't get insurance for their contractors and so forth. They can't get, so it stopped them pretty good in their tracks. So our little county ordinance had a good impact. And I think that was great for us because it gave the people, a chance to, stand up for what they believe in, and it really helped us. Moving on from that, a couple of the other big things that we're working on right now, I'll just go through real quick, is the watershed SB 1166. That's going to impact all of Hawaii forever. And I'll get into details about that. But right now it's SB 1166 HD1. And that's the watershed protection. And that's from the governor on down, yeah. And I have some things on island culture and tradition with the Taro Security and Purity Task Force that I've been working with. And another thing is that...
Can I stop you, Tony, and just say, what is the subject of SD 166?
The watershed protection plan. The rain follows the forest. It's basically fence and eradicate the rest of our watershed. And this will provide the funding for them to do that. In a tune of $10 to $12 million a year, we go to the Natural Area Reserve System program. And the impact of that is, going to be 100% on our island hunters. And it's mainly going to affect the pig because the rainforest is where the pig is, yeah. So this is additional funds that program will get. They already get a couple $1 million a year, and we have an amendment that we want to push through with that, and that's what we're working on now. And that's where we really needed support from our county, if we can get the amendment that we have. And then, of course, tonight there's the changes to the HAR that we're working on. And then another big thing is current items is the identifying lands for game management.
One more question.
Oh, yes.
Let me just ask Councilman Is that SD, is that 1156 or
1166.
1166?
SB 1166.
Okay, thank
It's
you.
a HD1, so it's in finance right now in the legislature.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. And then the Hawaii administrative rules that there's a hearing on in
Yeah,
Hilo
there's
tonight?
one tonight at 6 p.m. at Hilo DOFAW, and then one going to be here tomorrow. I don't know which building it'll be over here though, but it'll be over here at the Kona, same time, 6 p.m. And that's to discuss rule changes in the HAR. And that has the potential to affect the pig also, because what's this going to do is, like, people, if you catch a pig in a trap at grandma's house and you take it back to your house, if you get caught, it's forfeiture of your vehicle. I mean, they're getting into possessions now. And this has the capability, this is what it is. This is to prevent any type of transportation of animals or anything. And obviously some of that is on the books already. I mean, I can't go up in the mountain and catch animals live and theoretically bring it home and all. They just haven't really enforced it. What they're trying to do now is going to enforce it by forfeiture. So is DLNR going to have a department now, like the police station, to impound your vehicles, boats, whatever, your gear and everything? And I mean, this is what is happening. The state is just going berserk with, you know, we already have laws in the books. Why don't they enforce that? We already have DOCARE that's supposed to be doing this stuff. Take their handcuffs off, you know, get more personnel there to do the things they need to do. Instead, they're trying to create a whole nother monster now that's going to come from our taxes. Base yard to store these things, courts to take people to court, and it's going to be the poor people it's going to be disproportionately affected by this, because they're the ones that have to scrounge around for food. And you know, I go to my grandma's house, or you go to your friend's house, a pig digging up in their yard, and you put a trap, and I want to relocate it or take it back to my place, and now I'm going to get arrested. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that they're digging into. You know, and then they try to hide it under, it's because of the axis deer. And it's like, wait a minute, you already have the laws last year you guys passed in the legislature about axis deer and transporting axis deer and all that. So this is for this watershed plan. This is to set this up so that they can have total reign over the watershed, and people can't be, you know, Hamakua, you go up, you catch one pig, you take them over here. If you let it go, they don't want that kind of stuff happening anymore. So they're going to crack down on that. So it has a potential to cause a lot of havoc. I mean, there's a few good things in there, but of course, if you look at the majority of it, they're re-identifying our species now. They're from wildlife. Now it's injurious wildlife. They're giving the Board of Land and Natural Resources ultimate power now that they don't have to even have a permit or even file a report to destroy animals. So even if you have a farm, you know, 500 acres or whatever, a ranch farm, and you say, hey, I got pigs coming in here, they can send a team in there without a permit, kill whatever, and don't even have to report it. So it's just giving them too much power, you know. It's just endless. And then they use the excuses, but it's for if we have an insect invasion. I go, well, you're talking wildlife here. It doesn't say insects, invertebrates, or you know, this is game. This is animals that they're talking about. You know, this is an animal section that they're talking about. This is not about, you know, some spider that comes on a Christmas tree or something. You know, so that's how they try to present it. You know, and in reality, when you look at it and you read into it, it's not. It's the game animals. It's directed at game birds and game mammals.
Okay, and Mark, would you like to follow up on any of those three issues?
Yeah, I think Tony's covered those three issues, but as the commission kind of sets its agenda, I mean, yeah, just look at our title, game management, right? And one of the things that is sorely lacking is actually a plan to manage a game. And it stems from a variety of reasons. Whether it be large blocks of land here designated as critical habitat, or the federal U.S. Fish and Wildlife guys getting involved, or the inability to get an HCP done for Puvawa or Puanahulu. Those are all impediments to actually constructing and implementing and executing an actionable game management plan. Right? There is no doubt that either the federal government or the state government is going to continue to want to fence and eradicate. And it's this group's opinion that if that continues, there's got to be some sort of mitigation. Right? I mean, you heard the testimony today, and if you were here when we had testimony on Bill 261 about aerial eradication, people use these animals to feed their families, to reduce their grocery bills, to continue their culture, whether it's grandpa teaching grandkids how to hunt and fish and do whatever. And the ability for the state to actually manage this as a resource is woefully lacking. The last time we had a game management plan introduced by the state is, I think, in excess of a decade ago.
What, excuse me, would you repeat that? Was when?
I believe it was over a decade ago. In fact, we're trying to get our hands on that game management plan as it exists. And have been, we're still working on that. There's been a new one that has actually been under construction for a long period of time, which is stalled. It has not been complete. And I think it's our responsibility to work with you and to work with DLNR and to work with the state to actually get a plan to manage the game here on the Big Island. Because without a game plan, it's just catch as catch can. And if you want a long-term, sustainable resource, then we've got to have a plan to do that. And I think that is high on our list. Now, like I said, there's some things in our way to get there. We just got to knock them down as we go. And we're all learning. Believe me, you think, well, where's the game management plan? Well, you can't because U.S. Fish and Wildlife is here, and we need this HCP for Poo-Va-Va and this and that, and between the state and federal rules and regulations, it's a nuclear.
Appreciate all the legitimate interests from customary and traditional food sources, survival of the palila, avoiding suffering of species, and on and on. So I think what is a game management plan? And I'd like to just allow anyone who has sort of questions of them before we get into a general discussion of our needs. But go ahead,
Yes.
Councilmember Gregory Lagon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, thank you for your work in the commission. I just had a question for you, Tony, and that's in regards to the aerial eradication ban. You cited an ordinance in the county and the HRS. Could you please tell me exactly, do you know it by chance, what those citations are? Like what ordinance in the county?
Oh, okay, yeah.
And what HRS in the state?
The state HRS is 263-10.
263-10.
And that's hunting from aircraft and its penalty.
And what in the county?
And then the county is going to be Article 18, Animal Eradication, Section 14, 111, and 112.
Article 18, Section 1...
Section 14-111. That's the finding of purpose.
Section 14-111.
Correct.
Okay, so Article 18, Section 14-111. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Kanuha.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm a little confused right now. Did you guys give your presentation already? Because I didn't know if this was a question and answer presentation type or because the only thing I'm seeing right here, for myself, I want to hear the presentation before we start going into dialogue.
Right.
I didn't know if the presentation already happened or.
No. Well,
I just had gotten a note that that there were questions that they wanted, like Councilmember.
Could I recommend that we go into the presentation so that we can have dialogue afterwards?
I thought we were going to do.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Over here. How long will the presentation take?
How much longer is it?
Mine is not even 10 minutes.
Probably in total 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm looking at discussion-wise, and we're on a tight agenda because finance is like at 5 o'clock today and so forth. But I thought already we had folks were doing the presentation already, but I guess not. Yeah.
Right, that was my
so I think, Madam Chair, maybe you should be basically conducting this meeting and waiting for your comments to be later on after all council members speak. Thank you.
Go ahead.
So go ahead. All right. I appreciate it. First of all, thanks for the invite to address the council. When Tony and I spoke, we tried to derive a couple topics that would be of interest to the council, specifically for some of the newer members, although it sounds like the newer members have been following what's been happening. So I thought maybe what I would do is address the aerial shooting. According to yesterday's paper, it sounds like Lincoln Ashita is going to be speaking with the council with regard to the legal options. So I thought maybe we could review a little bit about why 261 got passed, the logic behind it, and again, I apologize if some of you folks have sat through a lot of the testimony, but I sat through 3 days of testimony last year. Arguments against aerial shooting were as diverse as the people who stood before you, and actually took a vacation day to come talk to the council, because most of them did take a vacation day. From these animals, it's all about their food, or it's a cultural heritage that is based on hunting, fishing, and gathering. It was overwhelming, the theme that the destruction of these animals from a helicopter was an unconscionable act and should not continue. My basic premise was about 95% of the people who testified in favor of 261 to create a ban, and the 4 or 5 who testified against the ban were Sierra Club members, and that was the group that originally sued the state in the 70s around the palila bird. I'd like to switch gears a little bit and make this a little bit more personal, because I have some personal experience with this whole eradication effort on Mauna Kea. To me, it seems that in many of these groups, the end justifies the means, and that's the only logical conclusion you can come to. But in July of 2011, I had the opportunity to fly with the military, participating in a short-term, high-altitude mountainous environment training. They called it HEMIT. HEMIT was a training program conducted by the guys of Pakaloa to get their aircraft pilots, their helicopter pilots, ready for missions in Afghanistan, right? The Army had asked the state permission to fly these training missions for a period of just 30 days. They faced some really critical opposition, since their plan would lead some of the flight paths over palila critical habitat on Mauna Kea. So in response, the DLNR arranged for themselves as well as civilians to accompany 2 helicopters and evaluate the impact of these military training flights might have on the environment. The military was required to perform an environmental assessment. Prior to the flights, we as a group of civilians had the opportunity to sit down and get briefed by the biologists responsible for creation of this EA. And during that meeting, we learned a great deal about what the military was doing to prep itself, right? So they could keep impact to a minimum. Flight times over critical habitat would last no more than 2 to 3 minutes. Minimum elevation above palila habitat would be 2,000 feet or above. Time on the ground at both Mauna Kea and Mauna Loa were 1 minute. No one could leave the helicopter when it touched down. All aircraft would be inspected, sprayed with insecticide and herbicide to minimize the possible introduction of invasive species. And I could go on. I'll just give you, that was just a brief synopsis. Yet, after completing the EA and taking reasonable steps to minimize disruption, noise, and introduction of non-native species, many thought the military had not done enough. In September 2011, DLNR board held a meeting in which the military's HEMIT project was up for approval or denial. If you haven't read the minutes of that meeting, I suggest you do so. Actually, there's a YouTube video. You can watch it. It's quite interesting. Hawaii Representative Rob Pacheco and Maui Representative Sam Gong voted no on the military's training request. Their primary reason was that a state and federal environmental impact statement had not been conducted. While the Army's training proposal ultimately passed, from Chairperson Isla, who's head of the board, it was clear that if the Army ever requested another 30-day window to conduct training flights over a forest of palila or any critical habitat, they would be required to conduct a federal and state environmental impact statement. In fact, several of the board members expressed this was one of the most difficult decisions these guys ever had to make. Remember, we're talking about a helicopter flying 2,000 feet above critical habitat for no more than 2 minutes, generating a noise level equal to 2 adults having a civil conversation in their backyard, and a training exercise that was to last no more than 30 days. In September of 2011,
Mark, can I interrupt you just a minute? Just because we're really running tight on this, and I don't want to I want to put it in terms of where we're going from here.
Okay, where we're going.
And priority.
Where we're going. I think flights that involve eradication, these are low-level flights. I flew on one. We had a mock flight where the DLNR took us up with David, who's their helicopter pilot, and a DLNR pilot, and we chased sheep on Mauna Kea. We're flying at treetop level. It is an incredibly disruptive event, right? Beyond being cruel and distasteful, the fact that we've got environmental groups suggesting that this is a good thing to do without an environmental impact statement is rubbish. Okay. It's total rubbish. I think the state has left the county in a bind, right? The state should have prevented this from happening. They did not. The county has stepped in to fill the void. Thank you very much. I think this ban of aerial eradication is an important one to uphold and maintain. The ultimate decision on what happens to critical habitat on Mauna Kea is up to the county council and the mayor and Lincoln and everybody else. But it's our personal opinion that Mauna Kea is the first of many that is likely to come. Right? As critical habitat continues to get expanded, people are going to want to use helicopters. Either the federal or the state guys are going to want to use helicopters to eradicate.
Excuse me, Madam Chair. I think we need to get the priorities of what the commission wants us to hear and what we need to discuss on your priorities from the commission's meetings that you folks had prior meetings and what you guys came up with. I think that's what we need to start moving forward. Thank you.
Okay, Tony, if you could finish up, otherwise we won't have any time to talk.
Sure. Okay. I have one sentence on this, on aerial eradication, is that I want to be absolutely assured that there's no intention to overturn our county ordinance to allow DLNR to aerial eradicate anywhere else. That's where I'm at on this issue.
Okay.
Don't let them allow this to blanket the whole island. Okay, zero eradication. Specifically palila habitat. This lawsuit, everything is specifically palila critical habitat only. Don't let them fool you guys on any of that. Okay, current items that we've been working on, identifying lands for game management, and this is where we could use help and concern and dialogue. A major factor inhibiting our ability to manage game is the absence of a habitat conservation plans. Before you can even manage game in Hawaii, you have to have a habitat conservation plan for that particular area. Okay, so with that said, currently Pu'anahulu and Pu'awa is sitting on a 10-year plan, sitting on someone's desk in DOFAW. They got additional $183,000 from U.S. Fish and Wildlife in 2010 to complete this plan. That's 3 years ago. I saw the plan. It's an awesome plan. I mean, they delineate areas where critical plants and everything are. It's almost a 40,000 acre area, and about 8,000 of that is archaeological sites, endangered plants, and they have it all mapped out. We could have 32,000 acres of hunting in the areas, sitting on somebody's desk. So I went to the legislature last week, and I'm working with a senator from Oahu. And they're going to investigate and report the status of this plan. So that's somewhere where we can need help to somehow, or through the mayor, or through whatever, is hey, where? We're relocating animals now off the mountain. We're getting them out of the core critical habitat where you guys say it's a problem, and now we're running out. We don't have places to put them because now you're telling me we can't manage game in these areas because we don't have a habitat conservation plan. Plan that was done in 10 years in the making and done years ago, and it's sitting on someone's desk. Once this plan is released and approved, the BLNR would be able to manage game in these areas. Now, that's great, right? But this is what, I was told that because the Board of Land and Natural Resources has close ties to the environmental community, they would not pass HCPs, Habitat Conservation Plans. So what, you know, it's just one big circle. Okay. I mean, we really have to evaluate what we're going to do on our island here and how we can get things going. I mean, I don't know, it's out of the realm of the county or whatever, but help, advice, something. You know, we have opportunities to do what's right, and, you know, everywhere you go, it's this.
I'm going to give you 1 minute.
Okay. Well, I already talked about SB 1166. So what we have is, we originally opposed that bill, but we offered a compromise if the legislature would support an amendment that would direct 10% of the collected funds to the Wildlife Revolving Fund. Currently, the Wildlife Revolving Fund is what our hunting license pays into. And we average 80 to 100,000 a year for the entire state. And that's what we have to do a managed game. So if we would get support for our amendment to this would help reduce the impacts that SB 101 has in its current form. Additional funding to the Wildlife Revolving Fund would help improve access, habitat, game quality, education, better sustainability of our islands through game management, something that the state's fallen short on. So the current forum has the potential to give NAR's program an additional $10 million per year and yet nothing to the Wildlife Revolving Fund. So where are the displaced hunters and game and everything going to go with this plan? So you can see it's always all one-sided. And that's another thing that, you know, we need discussion, we need help. How can we, what can we do to get support, get money into the programs that we need? With money in this Wildlife Revolving Fund will enable us to, you know, hire more game managers, biologists and stuff like that, and relocate animals and do things like that. And we would be helping the other side of the community.
I'm going to hold you now, because otherwise we're going to run into our next committee.
Okay.
And I think I'm just going to go around if there's, I have, okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Tony, okay,
Yes.
Listening to what you're talking about, this recent one, okay, about this game management plan, okay? You're saying we, who's we? The commission or the association, I mean, or the county, I mean, who's we that is wants to amend this?
Also, the SB?
Yeah, the SB 101 or whatever.
We're trying to do it through...
Who's we?
The commission.
The commission, okay.
Yes.
So you folks are trying to put in your own proposals to the state legislature to do this?
Yes, we already...
Okay, so that's where I think that's where the council can come and help. When you folks like have this meeting like now, you folks come to us, we can do a reso, we can have it where the county council, the island, wants to do this amendment to you know, I guess in support.
Right, okay.
Right?
Yes,
and that's where I think that's where
yes,
a lot of this miscommunication is happening, or what's happening now, because even like what you have on your table right now, I think you should make copies of that so we can see that.
Okay.
And that's how, like, during a presentation, that so council members can see what you guys are talking about or what you guys mean.
Okay.
Yeah? And so I think that maybe in the next time when you folks do an update to us, that's where it can be done. Because, you know, I've been on lobbying in the legislature for the county for a while, and I kind of know how the process is, and yeah, it's very frustrating sometimes, right? Because then, like you said, now at least you have a Honolulu senator that's willing to help you folks out and do the investigation, and also to try and, I guess, amend certain things, right?
Yes.
And so that's where, too, I think the council, we need to work with that senator. And also getting our Big Island representatives, that's the key. We need to get our Big Island representatives, state representatives, House and Senate, working together, trying to solve this problem.
Sure.
Right?
Yes, absolutely.
And then with the support of the county and the mayor, the council, right, all backing this, and that's how I think we can move forward.
Right, thank you, yes.
But yeah, so maybe, I don't know.
I'm going to let maybe Brenda.
Yeah, but Madam Chair, you know, maybe you can get another scheduled meeting later on, or maybe you can meet with them and you can come up with something.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I think so we translate what we're talking about into something actionable.
Okay.
But I want to go on, Councilmember Ford.
Thank you. I do agree with Mr. Onishi on this one, but I have a suggestion for a two-pronged approach. awesome plan that you just mentioned, that's a state plan that's been sitting on a shelf for 10 years.
Yes.
You need to get a copy of it. Is that the one that Mr. Onishi's referring to? This awesome plan? Okay. When you get the copy, get it to us as soon as possible after you guys have a meeting. You need to go through that plan and say, we like this, we don't like this, we like this, we don't like this. Bring it to the council. The two-prong approach is we do send a resolution to the state, as Mr. Onishi has suggested, but we need to pass legislation here at the county level, and we could basically pick the things out that you like from that plan and pass it as a local ordinance here in the county, and then ask the state by resolution to support it at the state level. We got to get the plan going, the county plan going. Everybody's looking for it, and if it would help you to more quickly do that, fine. If you find out the plan is not good, okay, you need to just tell us it's not a good plan and you're going to start from scratch. But in the meantime, we need to get some laws on the books in this county to get this plan going. And ultimately, my view of what your job is to write whether it's I don't want to use the word plagiarize, so a version of the state plan that you like, and have the county council pass it, at least make reference to it in our code and say, the game management plan, this date, and then in future as amended, if you're going to amend it in some way. We need to get that going. So I agree with Mr. Onishi, we need to send resolutions. I think you can do it too, but I think it'll be more powerful coming from the council, but we need to get that plan done. And so if whatever you can use to quickly make the plan, we can always amend it. So I would suggest you get it and start amending it in your commission meetings and get it to us so we can put it on our county's books and not wait for the state. 10 years they've screwed around with this, and they will continue to do it. Meanwhile, they'll pass legislation telling us we can't do what we need to do. Now, regarding, just so people don't misunderstand me, while I am very supportive of this commission and the purpose of the commission, I also want to save the palila. Okay, so you've got to address that in your plan. For instance, I was sitting here thinking, all right, time period, maybe there should be no helicopter flights or any aerial flights below 10,000 feet during the nesting season. You can add that to the plan because it's a critical habitat. We don't want to disrupt those, and if there's mold killing the mamani, then we need to have a biologist deal with that and tell us what to do. If we are disrupting a nesting season, we need to stop doing that. All those things should be in the plan. So in your plan, you'll have a critical habitat area for palila. Here's the rules. You cannot fly over this under 10,000 feet during this time. That's it. I'll drop. Thanks.
Councilmember Ilgon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do agree with Councilmember Onishi and Councilmember Ford. The problem with the state is that it can come up anytime, but this is legislation that you guys want to propose, and time is going to be the factor. And what I would like to see is a presentation and then a resolution right after. So then once we hear the presentation, the next thing on the agenda is the resolution that we can vote on. And if it's an emergency, of course, if we could just have the presentation in council, and then right there we can vote on it and then waive the 5-day hold that we have. But if we do have time, I'd prefer we discuss it in committee, because in committee is where we hash everything out. And we need to hash things out. So if it is an emergency, I'd advise you go to council and do it that way. But having that presentation and resolution format, we can be really effective.
Okay, thank you.
Other comments? Okay. Councilmember Yoshimoto?
Thank you, Margaret. Just a quick question for Tony. So, Tony, you mentioned that you're seeking, or the group is seeking the assistance of an Oahu senator.
Yes.
What, if you can answer the question, what happened with our county delegation as far as our state representatives?
I've got really good support. I met with Representative Cindy Evans, Representative Richard Onishi, and they're strong in helping us. We just can't get any senator from this island to give us the time of day, basically.
Okay, I just wanted to make the record clear, because, I mean, it just seemed,
Yeah.
but it is what it is, right?
We've tried, and it is what it is, and now we have a senator on Oahu that's interested in listening, so.
From the Senate side, it helps you to have both.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was the missing link, and we've been trying, and locally here since last year.
Okay, I think individually too, as council members, we can talk to our state representatives and senators and try and help the process, so I'll do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any others? It's all right. I will make a few comments. So we're asking you, give us what you think is right, and let us see what we can do about it. And so let's let whatever's gone behind go on. And I think, as everybody has said, we have thinking of yourselves as problem solvers. There are legitimate interests, whether it's the palila, whether it's, I think one issue that we haven't talked about is really what money there is. How can we, if we need a habitat conservation plan, where are the obstacles? Are there money issues? You might come before we're going to be doing the budget between the 10th and the 12th, and if there is some particular issue where perhaps you want to be requesting some funding. I don't even know that you've been given a penny for anything, so I just want that might be a forum if there's some specific need.
Okay.
And I think I just want to say that all of these issues that really come down to the county versus the state, this is a real attack right now. It's not just on your commission or your rights, but the whole home rule supremacy issue and the state coalescing power for unfettered discretionary power is across the board, and it's something that I think really our council is the one entity that I see is standing up on that level. So I appreciate it. I do hope that you work with some, such as Corey Harden and those others that do have a valid voice, and how we all work together. And we're here to help you and help all of these concerns and be a model of how one goes about doing it in terms of process, and what is the product that we can promote and say, here's a model in terms of habitat conservation plan and game management plan. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Council.
Any further comments or questions? Thank you. Okay, then, being that there's no further discussion, Madam Clerk, would you please do whatever we have to do to close?
Madam Chair?
Just
maybe we can go voice vote?
Yeah.
Vote, since everyone's here.
To close.
On the motion to file communication 180, Ms. Eoff. Aye.
Or
Ms.
just
Ford?
doing a vote? Voice
vote. I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah. All in favor? Aye. Done. Opposed? Adjourned?